Did you guys discuss the questions and answers with each other or just think on your own?
다 단다 티워시도 디가라 수수랑기 삼로단이 팀베 야나 파수 초들치니 팀베스디. They did on their own.
On their own. Okay. Perfect.
야고베 도스타디 수수랑기 칼레게라스.
So now we'll give you, say, 10-15 minutes to talk with a small group. See if you all agree on the answer. Where you don't agree, maybe discuss and see if you can figure out which answer is the right one.
다 단다 루가 나라 슈로치스 디슈네 캐나조 펜주이다 렌 디기데 상마 찍바 차게 됐다가 찍바 멤버나 렌 디슈 컨디 야슈 컨디 리샤디 캐나조나 토도친 담로치스.
Okay. Was this question hard? No? No. Okay, what's the right answer? Okay, how about this question? Wait. Yeah. No, it's more. Yeah. Next. They all say no. Is C correct? Good thing the exam is already written.
Yeah.
Is that right? B?
Yes, that's correct.
C? Yes?
근데 M도 Next question. Next question.
And that's it, right? That's all? Oh, you guys want B?
Kinzo B songke yuesa. You say it's the B, right? B is the right answer. B di resu be. B chungani di. Two small B's.
Okay, so we have disagreement about this question. Some people think this, some people think this.
The dinner latis chimutu meju chaswas. Kashigi B chungani di res. Kashi B chej the chungajir she does.
So the question is, if I have brown eyes, I want my child, what's my genotype?
Okay, does anybody want to come do a Punnett square for us?
The Tanda Dilla Mutu Meju Chara, Tangazur de Tusu Suejua, Punet Tusi the Swin Tawos.
Oh, come on, Punnett squares are fun. Okay, what should I put here?
The Della Karishagu Resa. Vichewani, one big P and a small p.
Anyone disagree?
Dilla Mutu Yuesa Sangma. Yes.
What should I put here?
The Ganga Karishagu Resa. Cheojiga Chumaji, one big P and small p.
Okay, sorry. I should have read the question first. Let's back up. My child has blue eyes. What is their genotype?
Tangi Pugudi, Tio Low Mess, the nutritionalist, the Tio Lora, Pugudi Karlana, Migmumbu la Roas, a Pugumigumbu in a Pugudi Rixe Dupcha Harires. Chumani, two small b.
Do we all agree?
Yes.
Okay, so what did they get from the other parent?
Dinini
What allele?
Dinini allele small b.
What did they get from this parent?
Dinini Pui rigze dupcha dira. Ta chik dine rar lawara. Dil bichunga roasa. Ta dil dine khari ra. Small b.
Everyone agree?
Sama mutu yuasa dil.
So this parent which one are they? What's their genotype? We know they had to have one small b because they gave it to their child. So is their other allele a big B or a small b?
The Pogu digi rigze dupcha to the bichunga ni roas. Ra. Ta di tadu gala bichunga di dinile ra. Ta allele tadu gala di pharo di macha shado. Di indu di bichunga dire doas. Chik the bichunga in baha gura. Ta allele shemba di bicha buguire bichunga buguire. Big B.
How do you know it's a big B?
Kinzo hande ha buguire bicha or reslan. Because the mother has brown eyes.
Do we all agree? Okay, good job on the practice test. All right, so your test will be tomorrow morning. Are there questions that you have and that you want to ask us to help you in your studying?
Ta exam sangi shoge roas exam ngoma de and dila ani robot che la ngazu ngani kiran sui tiwa tang ne ngazu leng ani robot che and do us tiwa us the khari race la ore. So his question is about this: which is the most powerful evolutionary force out of the 6?
Okay, the question was, which is the most powerful evolutionary force out of the 6? That was a question posed on one of your slides. And that was kind of posed as a reflection thought exercise or possibly as a debate. So there is no right answer there.
Ta thanda di thiwa chik doasa thiwa di slide na la yores di changma la ta sosurang la thiwa tang sha ji cha de res di gal khiran so thodur cheres and trolling do cheres in dil len di digore la ni yomares.
It depends on the environment.
And the thiwa di kharin ba go chu sa pelgyur la shugin chinge top shu chesho khandi res la yora and the shu thuk den do thamongela di shu thu ni top chesho khandi res ta shugin chesho khandi ti res la pelgyur la di kharan so doling che res len di takta re la ni seu jik la thwe yo mares.
Did that clear it up?
Di seu di len the so sa tharan rosa kharan gi thiwa kharan gi samchu. So he wants to know your opinion, which one is the most powerful one.
Okay. My opinion is that it depends. The force that we generally think of when we think of evolution is natural selection. But there are certainly some environments or some species where sexual selection comes into play more or founder effect comes into play more. But the most common, when people talk about evolution, they're generally thinking about natural selection, not the others.
Ta chidang ge je shidu nganzu gi pelgyur la de ta mangche kharil dur la na rangchung dem ru ga du yores ine ta di ra lu yores khashe kharir la na kabre simje nyeri khashe na la kharir la na deje dem ru ji do di shuk che yen di yores khashe na di chidang ine ge je shidu ga la pelgyur la de rangchung dem ru ga la thnang che chi yores.
Tada permanent de question do. Dinon tani riziko chido. Yeso son. DNA ke kitati tu chukul mado apo yona. E timon tani tada permanent de question mo ki kale.
So you talked about Darwin's 4 postulates. In that you have mentioned about genes. That DNA is the genetic material which is passed on from generation. So you said that Darwin had no idea about genes and DNA. So how come it came in his postulate?
Good question. So the postulate is really that the variation can be inherited from parent to child.
Da thanda nganjoi khari shigor la na dinala nangse minra wala jora di phama ni pugula ma gyude chigyo res landi she res gyudong chigyo ade.
I've been mentioning DNA when I talk about that to make it clear that it's something happening through the cells and not something that the parent teaches their child, right? My children speak English because I speak English, but that's not inherited.
Ta thanda ngi she di khari chin she la na chi phama ni phudu la ma du yo ade lap shaw ma imba di rangsing gi du yo jora di she res ta pe shaw ne nga inchi ge inge ge yo res an thana chi nge pu di inge ge yo res di lap shaw re ma shi gyudong chaw and ke ma res di.
Is that clear?
This is cha yes. Yes.
말 간다 좋아지게 하는 나도 좋아하는 게 좋아서 뭐지도 이 뭐를 미시가 안에 말을 듣게 자작하게 되는 내가 보기에는 단단히 좀 자작 미시다가 지셔야 그게 뭐 자작마치 좀 뭐지 뭐 되시는 게 차서 아니 자작 미시다가 지어야 되는 아니 카톤은 뭐 비행기에 지나 미시다가 돼야 지에 말 돼야 되는데 말에 뭐 하거든 왜 벌써 이 자작 같은 거 봐야 아니 아주 대파에 대가지고 말 돼야 참 아니 카톤 말에 뭐 해야 되는 거 다다 죽을
mani manga topur la de kya nisanga le do an ma cha sa
얘는 그따가 이거리세. 나 단단히 뭐시야 이게 많이 나오는 짓이야. 다시 한번 이거 팔레만 장애.
tamade keran shedu ni she sada dini manga mani topge re la res angi gaja nisanga thi la bare
얘는 숫자가 지금 있어. 팔레만 말은 숫자가 나는.
mani manga la na nisanga la nyunga cha so mardi da gochis gela kiran ge samju nisanga dam yi sung ra an thada di gyabjor la ling khare sungudu khais na mani manga topge res la ra
얘가 말이 뭐 하고
mala manga topge na ani ngapjule manga gugma re nisanga sung ba
말은 숫자가 지금 있어. 말은 숫자가 지금 말뭐 하고 그래라. 나 제가 가자 이거 포도 좀 만들고 말했어.
pani chu
말은 숫자가 돼.
mani gaja gyani nisanga mani che pani chu an langmadi la
뒤에 싸워지에요. 소소대 지금 오래.
sawake res che balangmadi ale so what he thinks is since you said more DNA comes from the mother because of mitochondrial DNA so we have marked 25% comes from mother it's not but most of them have opted for 50% but he and his friend feels that it's 25% from mother and 10% from father and the remaining it's created new
Oh, it's created anew?
neither
Okay.
from both
Well, we have read the DNA of parents and children of different animals, and we don't see 75 or 60, what did you say, 25 and 15? 25 and 10. We do not see 65% new DNA sequence. We see from parent to child, it is 99.9% similar, or sorry, that.
You and me, it's 99.9.
True. Marge and I are 99.9% similar. All humans are 99.9% similar.
ta thanda anjogi the DNA phamada pu niga gaji tayres loires thanda khorim jora di ta dugala DNA ta phamani pu ta oina kyaja gubju gorbu chek bu chipayres thana shi March the Megan Koraniga DNA ta oina kyaja gubju gorbu chek bu chipares dila dugala niga phada mani le yore mado thujuranga ta kirangi nisanga da chu mani nisanga phani chu lana thujuranga saware la yores inde DNA sawa inde kheyo mares Cells couldn't
divide into two daughter cells from a mother unless the chromosomes were matching up and pulling away separately. So the idea that new DNA pops up in this cell and not in that cell, it could be a big mess.
Dashu cheza andi jiba tabongni chadu najung tabongni chadu res
대인나라 단다 니가 저번에 용도 저번에 시작한 상을 용한 집바라 마다 파니까 니가 속사서 나가라 이나 파데 들으기 이제 말에 들으기 자자 집바를 해야지
There's a chikba reves laure. So you said that there are 23 pairs of chromosomes. One comes from mother and the other from father, right? So does it mean it's 50-50%? 50% from both?
Yes. Of nuclear DNA, you get half from your mom and half from your dad.
Res tining nangi DNA jura. Di baina chega khane niler lana mani le res chega phani res.
But remember that we are very similar. So the allele that I get from my mom is going to be almost identical from the allele that I get from my dad.
Chezangara jo chama daw shu yoras ra DNA de jo dila duta allele ni yoras chik mani chik phani ra yora dini ga daw yores.
Remember that I drew a portion of a gene up there. I was doing eye color. And the brown allele and the blue allele were exactly the same, except I changed just one base. and that had a big change on the shape of the protein.
An keranzo khazing nge ingwala thanda rigze thidugala thingu dues rigze mi ngombu yewe gi rigze da an mi gyamu yewe rigze thiswas dila dugala DNA di thanda taduwa phije mangbu shu yores mangbu nane chiglo gyo theros di gyo thege ni shugen chimbu shuste ros mi ngombu da gyamu kheba dwe di phije chigla rali yores.
The same thing for hemoglobin. Of the thousands of bases that spell that protein, just one makes a big change in how the cell looks.
Chesang jo thabung na la thanda tize hemoglobin la juas the hemoglobin ro chashana chipo chikya res phulje tongda mangbu yores ro di duke dina ni chik la jo droina an phulje de korang jo the hemoglobin jo du yores.
Does that make more sense or still?
This is chasesa.
Could he explain to us what's led to their conclusion?
The jugdom kharchin chi besa kya ge jugdom chi chira ni cha mani chu phani relane ani saware tujuranga sawa tungor
아tom 안에 누가 나왔다 그래. 막 자차 뭐를 막 자차 뭐를
아니 게자 tujuranga di
예 자차가 지가 있는 자차고 나는 마도 자차가 저라면 팔 자차가 주차고 이나네 마도 자차 뭐하다 가정에 그 벗어 주출로 이게 마다네 자차 주차가 팔 주차가 나바다네 소소도 너무 DNA에서 그 성공.
So why he thought it's 25% because if he gives 50% from mother it becomes equal to father 50-50 each. That's why, but we know that we have heard that mother's DNA is more in the cell. The DNA from mother is more. That's why I made I gave more percentage to the mother and made it 25 from mother and 10 from father, so that we can see a difference. And the 65% created new.
Where would that come from?
Well, the
Which one?
mitochondria thing is the
Oh,
mother's
that's-
more.
Sawa chigiyor lara, sawa di khanile resa. Tabong na kere. Khawal kere, tabong na korang kere la gore. Khari kere. Tashu chini kere. Okay, it copied, the DNA copied. That's why the remaining percentage is created new in the cell itself by the DNA.
Then it had to come from mother or father.
That Tashu chilana ani ma da phani lejo ro chang marelas.
자식 차고 자차고 판에 줄라네 유지 조는 시차고 안에 유지 따라네 제제 조에는 같이 차고 판에
Na. So when a mother's DNA is copied, it becomes 50%. When a father's DNA is copied, it becomes 10 to 20%. We gave this. Khande res adi. So he's saying the same thing because since you said more DNA comes from the mother in a cell, so if he mark 50%, if he choose 50%, it becomes equal to father. That's why I selected 25%.
Okay, let's talk about the mother being more DNA than the father.
Ota thanda ami DNA chora digal chik thanang chinta rasra.
Here's my egg and sperm.
Ta thanda dina la khar lana di gonga dires di khamkao dires.
Okay, let's say this is an organism that has 4 chromosomes.
Ta thanda di kenge jora di la chobong shi yo acha shas.
Okay, that's what we have. And then we mentioned that mitochondria, which are this organelle inside the egg, have a little bit of DNA.
Ta thanda ngajo di na la gonga nanglo la this is mitochondria, right? Di ani nuget hadul res di na la DNA yorwas.
Their DNA might be boop, that much.
Ta di DNA thio aina khaga sorla na thanda chek chunju shri sa. diga sures mangyung.
So when these merge, okay, maybe the baby has 50.1% mom and 49% dad. So not exactly 50-50, but really, really close.
Tata dila dugala mangyung ta dugala di DNA nuge thadu na DNA chek chik tön so. Ta dinye phada ma yam do thena chik chagro adi. Saben de jor chidu di ani ende chagres. Ta dinal chebung ge do. Di gala thanda nuge thadu gi DNA ya yora di konga di. Di yores. Ta dugala di pugu di ta phomu jim bainas ra. Ta di kyacha ta wainas mani chungo DNA khaju chagla na ngapchu che chek lego chik chagres. Ra khanan di chek chunju diora. Ani pani chungwa shipshe gu chek gu chagres kyacha. Dila du ta new shu chadores. Chikpa chikyang ngapchu da mare de ina new pe yores ni.
That would have been a better question if we'd said the DNA in the nucleus is 50-50, and then they couldn't argue about it.
Oh, ta thio de seu ji thio nda ta ta chayrolas. Tening na la DNA jura di kyacha ngapchu re la wainas.
If you created new DNA every time, you'd end up with new chromosomes and nothing. You wouldn't always have 23 sets of chromosomes if you could just make new DNA in every cell from nothing.
Dila du ta DNA yujo de dashi chi digre la wainas ra. Dila du gola ani thabung mangbu shu thabung na DNA mangbu shu chagirwas. Thabung mangbu shu chagirwas.
That's sometimes a bad thing in cancer cells. They make extra chromosomes and they grow crazy.
Chesa DNA do cancer dende do cha shauna thabung de zo khar chulan chubung mang thane thewal le ni ani thabung mangbu shu ki yores dina.
That's very abnormal.
Di tugyon ji res di.
Does this make sense now, or still don't agree with 50-50?
Ta di seu cha suelas. Handa gajang ngapchu le di gaji di peju shara seu cha su sa kirani. Kiran su ta cha ra korani. Seu cha se.
You had new DNA every generation. That'd be a great way to go forward quickly in evolution because you wouldn't have the same offspring.
Tizanta peju chue di pugu di chibu chikya yungu yo mara sawa ke di yo ras di peju na.
나 나도
Kodo.
DNA 안에 RNA 라슈제도 아주 좋게 도와주는데 바로 DNA 라슈제에 RNA 그는 기타 봐야 나도 DNA 포함이 DNA 라슈제를 해야죠. 많이 거기가 나올 수 있어요. 이나 바로 DNA 라슈제로
DNA DNA dashu khandis chigores. So we also know that DNA replicates. So we want to know more about how DNA replicates and make its copy.
I'm going to recommend that anyone who might get confused, just cover your ears.
Ta ponyoku du sam ta gochu du sam na amcho kalo sa. Suin baina.
And year 3 will go into this until they're sick of it.
Sorry.
Year 3 will go into this until they're sick of it.
Kaya mar lorim suma na dikhenza di mang theli res. Kaya za bet nyobe chai res adi. Mang thani.
Maybe next year we'll come back and teach year 3.
Ta peje lorim sumba la ngazo rangja yungu yogi res lorim sumba la vela.
Take it away, Megan.
Okay, DNA replicates when it needs to go from one cell to two cells.
Thabung chik ne thabung ni sura di kausu an DNA di dashu chigi res.
So before it can split to two cells, it has to copy all of its DNA.
Thabung ni la kha ma ke khong la ani DNA di koran dashu chigi res.
Okay, so for when DNA copies, it first opens up okay, the two strands separate.
DNA di dashi chui ras dashi chhe kapsu thangbo khar chi lana kubani di kha chi res ngani longa chhe res.
So on this strand, I'll have AAC. Over here I'll have TTG.
Tadi khachir lara khachidu di chashawana de la pulze AAG by nasra di chola harir launa TTG res.
And because if there's an A here, I know exactly what to add. Right? If this is an A, this must be a T. If this is a T, this has to be an A. So the cell knows what to add, and it does that.
Tadela H T G lara dila du A waina tabundi hagu res dela karinu be gagu me A into dela T tu res thana shi diwa A na A G na C into tu res.
And it can do that for the other strand. Okay? So now we have 2 copies of the exact same DNA.
Dila dita DNA thagarang res ra DNA thagarang ge ani tashuni yura di chagu res seo cha so sa digas pado. Yes.
And now all that has to happen is the cell splits itself, making sure that 1 copy goes to this and 1 copy goes to that cell.
Tadi dashu chisa jal kharchilana thabung di khora ni la khedu res dila dugola ni ga dashu chik dele res chik thabung shimba dile de res.
Now we have 2 cells with the exact same DNA.
Dila duta thanda khira la khari ra de lana thabung ni res thabung ni digna la DNA ya chi chik kyang res ni gana.
Make sense?
Seo cha so esa.
Other questions you're dying to ask us?
Ani tio shimba US Kari.
They do the changes.
Kari da.
They do the changes.
Jejur.
Changes.
Kigyur. Alele ho demduk da kigyur.
Changes was a patient on a mutu badar jaw.
This ko kigyur kari tu shidina.
Changes jaw ra. Changes.
Ande.
Ani patient she mutu bin dizo ni lo. Tamda tuma patient ane kare te.
Di kari restaurant.
Pinju ta yo marbe. Kukar la sende kura la.
Chimi tu betsok ni alele.
Patient she mutu bin dizo ni lo na dizo ni duni jaw ra. Ani ta cause na patient da 3% watching ane patient ta no rio marbe.
Di pelgyur yore yo mari la ora da dina. Ale tio di kars lana thanda kegyur lan ten do dinal. Kegyur lo du gala ani kebel chima tu betsong du ni lan ten shas. Di la du gala dinala pegyur chungu yo mari wes lan tiorish. So this one is speciation or what? Okay, so he said it means in this you have mentioned that these 2 populations cannot mix, right? Cannot reproduce. So does it mean that there is no evolution in this?
So the question was on the slide talking about speciation, and it shows a population of dinosaurs or something. Going to becoming 2 different species, and it talks about them not being able to interbreed, being separate populations.
Dila de thanda kegyur do dinal khiranzo slide na kharite lona tumru do remote do as dinala ani kuranzo di thanda chogdu ni cha dini par ani penju de ma thu adinde te rescable chima thu.
In order to go from 1 species to 2 species, there has to be some sort of separation where they're not breeding with each other anymore. Otherwise, if they keep breeding, they keep mixing their genes together and they evolve as 1 population.
Thanda ta nyerik sao drup godu kharichu gurlana niga pa penju de meo guras dila du nyeri chig ne kha kheni ni chabiores yeri kesi dini de kha ma khe waina chigrang niga rigze den zo de di ras de waina nyeri chigrang penju do thungures.
That separation can happen in different ways. The easiest way to imagine is, these birds are on this continent, these birds somehow get blown off to this island. They're separated in space.
Ta thanda losu ye jura di pechu shagu nas nyeri chig di kharina shagur lana chado shawainas de la lingten chigi chaji yo che khudi dine ni call door lana khashi chi khuji thanda di che lingten che and di choling chila do dine chasha ras ni ga losu ye ras so du ni di.
There are more complicated ways that can happen. For example, there are some types of bugs that go underneath the ground and stay there for years, and then they all come up at the same time and mate. And if some of those bugs get off schedule and they come out of the ground a year early, that would also be a separation in their population, so they could become different species.
The peasonchik dishana tigores burigora budrikchi khariorlana tanda nirikchik ba imbache chama saol juni lomangbu dedigre saol an tuzochik ta lona lorere na themachik chis thungyo aina chama tuzochik na thungyo res kabre kharchiyorlana tanda dinan saol jungi khasheji shimba da mendawe tuzo tisnga thuen jora dinde thuen digi ani nirik ni dikheba losu yeru res.
It could also happen if there's a difference in preference. So if tall people really liked to have babies with other tall people, they'll keep making taller and taller babies. And if short people really like to have babies with short people, they could make shorter and shorter babies, and they start becoming more and more separate so that nobody over here will want to mate with anybody over here.
The peasant ro shawa na miro shasra ta susugi damkha ra debegi damya jora diru chagores ta chashana mir suburungbu kyanga imbainas koran sugi ta chansa gyasa jora suburungbu rang dambainas unkhonzo pugu chama ringbu ke dirwas thana shi subut chunga denzo chunga rang la gyani pugu ke dewana di gyuzar denzo mata dirik di kharlana ringbu kyang ki yores dirik di shunju kyang ki yores dini madeni.
But to go from one species to two, you have to have that population begin to separate more and more from each other in some way, whether by time or space or preference.
Susu debegi dambainare tuzugi imbainare ta di nyerichik di niga losu yesuas di chagyo res rodang.
Other questions?
And tiwa shimba yuase. 가르쳐? 침팬지. 가르치서라 레바 요 말에 침팬지 단도 요 단도 요 침팬지 요 ale yerik shembadi mi raudi lebo chimbu yor ledi ale de chimpanzee mare homo neanderthals ledi kabalil tani 가리요래? 다 그랬어. So you said Homo neanderthals and Homo sapiens. When you compare these two, Homo neanderthals have bigger brain. By looking at the skull, you said it. But on what basis you said that these Homo neanderthals were intelligent?
Scientists...
Because during the great extinction, we have seen that humans have survived and these Homo neanderthals got extinct. So
Yes, so scientists see a relationship between size of brain and intelligence.
the tseribai tadang khandu yor lawainas lebe cheze da namju yora dini teo shagures.
But besides just the size of the brain, it also matters what type of brain cells and how big different regions of the brain are.
Anchi kharil tagu yor lawaina ani lebe gine lo yora dila rawli yores.
What? And being the smartest doesn't always mean that you have the best chance of surviving.
Dila do keran namju ta yashu ro shioinas ra changshu ro yimbainas keran sune yashu chidurlani dilla tu yumares.
So we think that Neanderthals were smart because of their brain size and also because they were very closely related to us and we're smart.
Nchi kharish kunzo changbu yorla namju dembarla di kharishin shiyorla na kunzo lebe cheze jura dilatani sheres.
But there might have been...
La.
Is he doubting that we're smart?
ngan changwe mar lagi esa So if you relate intelligence in terms of the brain size, so elephants have bigger brains, so why they are not more intelligent than humans?
Do elephants have bigger brains? Marge is looking up whether elephants have large brains or not. But it's also not just the size of our brain, it's the type of brain that we have.
Ta thanda cheze chikpu ji mai ba ta langjing gi lebe cheze dita de res march gi di paralani lebe gi cheze chikpu lo ma de be thanda ngajur lebe ri khari me dilai rauli res.
So in your brain there are different types of brain cells and different types of brain tissue you can have.
Ta lebe na cha shauna lebe thabung ta du gala rig minda yores ani phungrup minda yores.
How much do they think our brain weighs?
Phajo digaji ha Since intelligence do not depend on the brain size, so since we don't have the actual brain from that fossil, so how can we say that organism is intelligent?
So there is a relation between brain size and intelligence. And also because we're so closely related to the Neanderthals, the types of brain cells they had were probably very close to ours, just like the types of brain cells in chimpanzees are close to ours.
How much? Go ahead.
Cheze da namjo yora di deo chagi yores. An thanda di cha shaw na nganzo da chimpanzee new shure la go ras niringi de. Tadu gola lebe gi thanda phungru rig jora tadu gola dau cha yores. Di do an khoran so da nganzo thanda Neanderthal da nganzo dau yores lani. Di sirung we ga shi yores.
How much do you think your brain weighs?
Kyan zo leba jije khajo yores samgo dos. Kilo chik da chawa. 1.5 and some said 2 kilo ya. Tawga reshas.
An elephant's brain is over 5 kilos.
Ani langchen gi lebe gi cheze ta jibota waina khajo yorla na kilongal has dos ta.
Brain size reflects body size. Just because these neurons have to make connections, if they have to travel longer, there might be more connections in the brain or more places to go, so all of them have to come back into the brain.
Dile duta subu cheze la ra li yoras subu chimbu yo ena ta thanda wangsa din thuba su yoras thuba su du changma ma level of du yoras dile chig ra lu yoras.
Which mammal has the best or the biggest ratio of brain to body weight?
Ta thanda ngajo leba da subu gi thanda cheze jura di ngajo dursha ta yo di ta du gala ani chesho khari yoras keme nala.
I'll tell you, dolphins.
Dolphin race di ta waina.
Among the birds, it's crows.
Ani chana la ta waina ani phoro din zo race.
And there's some lizard that I've never heard of that has the largest amongst reptiles, a monitor lizard.
Ta thanda changba rig da dinal monitor changba lanchi gyura di ani thanda lebe da subu cheju dursha ta yo di ta waina khran zo changba nana di chesho di cha de race.
But I think we've set you up well to start your discussions with the neuroscientists when they come.
Oh, ta thanda di chodur jido di an jela thanda ngajo wangza seri li ras di la thio di ya kero chis.
I just want to show you something that we didn't talk about.
Oh wait, can I say one more thing?
Oh yeah, sure, go ahead.
And they will I'm pretty confident that they will show you maps of your brain to show you the different regions and what they do.
Ani thanda wangza seri na la kherazo thanda gigin khoran so gi wangza seri ba khoran so thik res di na lebe gi ne di re la ne kherazo tungu res.
This is pictures of some different vertebrates before they're born.
Ta thanda ma ge khong la yo e thanda gi ru so cha yo dinde ri gi par ten sho res.
These are mammals, people and pig. This is a reptile and this is a bird before the egg, way before the egg is hatched.
Ta phagi dikhar na do mi res ma ge khong ra ni na yu la ora di mi che an di phak ba res Nibadi, Sumbadi, Todo Simjaya, the res, Shivadi, Chares, and Chadi Gongani Matun Kongaj resti.
They all have the beginnings of eyes and nostrils.
And Tangbo de Gozu do Mikche, and Nagu Ugunjura, Diures.
And the backbone, all these things that make sense.
And the Gerujura, Dianyures.
But they have also things that reflect our common ancestor.
This Sangma Karitungulana, Mig Yoche, Nagu Ugun Yoche, and Gabru Diures, Dilla Dunganzu Sangma, Mebochik Nichua Tungures.
They have these things here that are the remnants of gills from fish.
Tatanda Della Burbur Tun de Yorich Dos, Di Karilawalana, Yana La Tanda Nyachep Roslaya Gil, Uktanglin Chedi, Dil Hamadi Imbatungures.
They all have little bumps that are going to become in us arms and legs, but in the chicken are going to become wings and legs and wings.
Tatanda Dina La Burbur Tun de Yorich Doa, Dina Mida Papa in Lapada Kamba Chari Roas, Ani Di Chai by Di Charido, Chai Indugala, Kambata, Shopa Chari Res.
So the idea is if you look at us very, very early, we all are looking more similar to each other, and it reflects our common ancestor.
Dila du Magi Kong La Tao and Nasti, Ramagi Kong La Rangi Lady, Dita Dugala Tama, Dodo Chadures, Di Haritungu Lana, Maranzu Sama Mebuchi Nichunga Tungures.
정가 많은데 이 자본이 제주가 원기를 가려야 됐어. 근데 자본 거라지 가다가 저들 집을 좀 봐봐야 할게요. 그래서 그 제주가 원기 양분을 타질 때 제주는 서마다 타질 때 이와야 됐어. 자본 거라게 너게 내게 다시 잡고 많이 받았다는 거는 그래서 그런 거 어떻게 하는 거 다시 앞으로 좀 앞으로 근데 자본 저당은 왜 우리 이와요 말했어. 자본
Tashu Tata Machiwaina and Kare Dijana.
다시 앞으로 맞아야 그룹에서 와이나라. 그리고 자본 불안한 건좀 시작이 이와요 말했어.
Tabon Kurana Karichia, Homaskina. Korim the true one, Tabon Koran La Karichia, Tabon Koran Lugo Shuru Westland.
자본은 제생이 다시 들어와. 다시 들어니까 다시 앞으로 맞춰서 그룹에서 와이나 그 자본 불안한 것을 넣을 수 있지. 저당을 넣어도 이와요. 그래서 이거나 자본 불안 제뉴 누지 이와요.
Alemas. Ani Tua Tambodi Ale Rigzeg the Sangma Lechipa Restra. Ale di Tabung Chejung like Teni Res Ra. Rigze Manyung di Tabung Chejung like Teni Res. And Tawanachi Tabung Manyung di Subu Chejung like Teni Res Ra. Ra Niwadi. Ani Sumbadi Altola Droina. Okay. So there are 3 questions. The first one is you said there are around 25,000 to 30,000 genes in a cell. So the number of genes, does it depend on the size of the cell? And likewise, like the number of cells in a human body, does it depend on the size of the body? And the third question is if there is a problem or some mistake in DNA replication, does it have any damaging effect on does it damage the cell?
Okay, question 1, does the number of genes depend on the size of the cell? No.
The rigze mangyung di tabung size of the cell tabung chejung jura dila tingyu yoro lan tingyu yo mares rigze mangyung di.
All of my cells will have the same number of genes, and an elephant might have fewer genes than I have, even though they're large.
Dila du nge tabung na tawa na tabung changman na rigze chikpa yoroas and nga da tanda tab di langchi ni dura na nga na nge subu na rigze manga yores tawa na langchi subu chewa doas.
But super small cells like bacteria, they're about 100 times smaller than ours, so they're not going to have as much DNA as us. But when we're comparing animals, the size of the cell doesn't matter.
Da socha shimbanyam do do na tanda nge le shewas da ine da tasin bacteria ro shawa na chunju shu ros tasin khora di inzam khora zo nang lo la tanda rigzeta wa na gyal has tende yores chunju shu res.
What was the second question? The number of genes.
And then the number of cells, does it depend on the size of the body?
Oh. You probably have a better answer for that. Do larger things have more cells?
For an animal, I guess certainly, but there are some weird life forms that are one cell that cover meters underground.
Yeah. Kind of.
The dodos chagdos.
So an adult will have more cells than a child, but a large person, if you gain weight, they don't have more cells.
Tanda tabung mangyung da subu chejung lara dila dugala ta mi gemba sta puguji duwa na res mi gemba dal tabung mangje pugudil nyua res ine mi gemba chara ni yo che chik di gyakba chawa ba nasra dil tabung manga yoro la na yo ma res.
What was the third question?
Third one, if there is any error in the DNA replication, does it damage the cell?
Oh, depending on the error, it could be bad.
Ta thanda nundri shorgu rela ra nundri shoyala ra lu yores and dine ta nundri sho khashi ki khari yorla na thanda nyugyon chi yores tabung la.
Big error, the cell might die. Very small error, no problem.
The nundri chunji ro yimba na and tabung la kangi thing mares nundri khashi khari yorla na tabung mya cha di yungu yores nundri khari me di ra lu yores.
A local error, like some damage to my skin, can make this skin cell become a cancer cell.
The pesha na digala tabung digala pakbe tabung gal nyugyon ji shor and di ani tabung dila har chungur la na nundri di shor ni ani dine ye tabung jura dinde chasi res.
And that cell is damaged, but my child is not going to have cancer because of that.
Inata di tanda dene chara dene nadu gala di ani menjo che yores di ani tanda rigze di pugula ma du yo mares.
The changes the damages that come to my eggs are what's going to go into my child.
Tanda ngaran cha shone ngi gonga yoras gonga nanglo la yo dro inas di ani ma pugula du yores.